Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C., the podcast where we dive into stories behind success, uncovering lessons learned and the insights gained by leaders and innovators in the business world. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Rebecca Hazel. Rebecca is the interim executive director at hackergal. hackergal is a groundbreaking Canadian nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering girls to explore coding and technology. With a mission to inspire the next generation of female leaders in STEM, hackergal is working tirelessly to close the gender gap in tech through innovative programs and nationwide hackathons. Join us as we explore hackergal's transformative impact on the tech landscape and discover how they are fostering a diverse and inclusive future in computer science. For those of us who don't know you and what you do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm fortunate enough to, for the next month, be in the interim executive director role at hackergal, which is a Canadian charity that serves a very noble mission of trying to achieve gender equity in the Canadian tech landscape. We have been working hard since 2015. We were founded by Lucy Ho, who is the executive director, and we are on the ground trying to create safe, comfortable, exciting learning environments for girls grades 6 to 9 and high school girls as well. Really just trying to make sure we bridge that gap. It's particularly in education between middle grade and high school and then post-secondary, trying to get the numbers up, trying to get the percentage up of women and gender diverse people working in tech for the long term. So it's a big, lofty ambition, big goal, but lots of day-to-day successes and lovely things that happen on the ground with the kids who are working hard to achieve their dreams every single day.
Love it. I mean, I love Hacker Girl. I love the mission and what you guys are doing. But can you tell our audience a little bit about why this organization started? What's the reason behind it, and what is it hoping to achieve long term?
Yeah, so the organization was founded because our founder, Lucy Ho, noticed just gender issues coming up in her own field, in her own industry, particularly around a lack of mentorship, a lack of representation of women in leadership roles. And it's very easy to connect that to the world of tech. The stats around women's participation in tech have pretty much stayed the same for decades, and nothing has changed. And the root of that problem, you're always trying to say, okay, well, what can we do? How can we get the numbers up? And I think there are often a lot of kind of superficial attempts to get more women in tech kind of too late in the game. Whereas what we're trying to do is start very early, start in the schools and the community centers, again, in those safe and secure spaces where the kids already operate, and get them exposed to coding knowledge, to digital skill education at that early age with a trusted adult in a safe, peer supportive environment with kids who are just like them, who are just as nerdy about tech and just as excited about coding, and just really motivate them to keep going. That's something that doesn't always exist in a school environment or in a community, and we provide it in an extracurricular way, sometimes incorporated into curriculum, but more often than not after school or over the lunch break, to really integrate it into their day-to-day lives and make sure that they're able to get that exposure, see the role models, meet them on screen at our events, be able to envision themselves in these careers and motivate them to keep going, keep taking those courses into high school and just keep pushing. As you know, careers in tech are challenging. They're full of their own obstacles, and it's an uphill battle sometimes. So we want to make sure they feel as prepared as possible and that they can actually, on paper, get into post-secondary and show up on that first day and say, I want to be an engineer, I want to go into computer science, with that confidence. So it is a long-term goal, but we're long-term people, so it works.
So, how does the program work? Do you work directly with the schools to put these programs in place? And can you also tell us a little bit about how the hackathons work?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a very effective and sustainable model. We work with teachers and with community leaders oftentimes directly, getting them to start coding clubs in their spaces. So in doing so, we allow them to make decisions around timing, make decisions around space or usage of space or resources and tools, and to incorporate our curriculum, which is trusted, it's developed by experts, it's free, it's accessible on our learning management system. They can take the materials we offer and run with them and create this very tailored experience for the kids who are in the community, acknowledging that every community is different and every kid is different. In those coding clubs, they're able to explore together, all in the hopes of working toward our hackathon. So our hackathon is that week-long event, which happens at the end of the school year, usually in May, and it's a great opportunity for kids across the country and their coding clubs to come together to participate in a week-long challenge according to a social impact mission. That's a really important part of it. We find that there's more interest, particularly amongst girls, in tech if the idea of coding is connected to solving a real-world problem, improving their community. We've done themes on cybersecurity, on sustainability, really trying to make that important human-centered connection in the work that we do that drives them in the door and they get excited about creating, a educational platform to learn about pollution or, a very innovative approach to educating people about cybersecurity and how to protect themselves. Like they get very passionate about it. And the hackathon stands out because of the demographic that we serve. It's all girls and gender diverse kids. And then also we get to see them tune in virtually from across the country at our live events, which are actually kind of bookending the week. And then they get to submit their projects and we get to have our sponsors engage in judging opportunities so they can look at these projects, grade them, and then we have some pretty fun prizes every year that the kids are able to win, which is great motivator for the younger demographic for sure. But the hackathon is really is a wonderful cumulative experience that celebrates the work that's being led up to that point of the teachers, of the facilitators, bringing these coding clubs together, and then just celebrating everyone's accomplishments and that they hit the ground running, and hopefully that we'll see them again next year at the next hackathon.
And what has been some of the impact that hackergal has done in the work that it's doing with these young women? How many of them are going off to universities and
Mm.
working and getting into tech?
Yeah,
Have
it's a great question. I mean, it's funny because we can get a sense of that on a smaller scale through our high school program, the ambassador program, which is smaller, it's more competitive. It's about 30 to 40 kids who have all gone through the hackathon program. So they're kind of graduating out of that and they want to keep going, keep staying in our community. And we train them a little bit in educational pathways and career pathways, getting those professional skills, preparing them for post-secondary essentially. We're able to follow their journeys a little bit easier. So within this smaller cohort, we can look and say, oh yeah, 3 years ago, someone was in grade 12 and now they're in post-secondary and we can see their journey. But when it comes to the hackathon program, which is this bigger national scale of all those grades 6 to 9 students across the country, we may have to wait a while until we see the impact, until we can follow their trajectory and put out a massive survey to see where they all ended up. But we are able to track those inspiring stories and to see the kids who end up going into post-secondary on a smaller scale now. But I can't wait to see the results when we are actually able to see those kids who started the program at the age of 10 2 years ago, in time, in several years, writing us and letting us know that they actually ended up studying computer science. So the journey again is a longer one, and the data itself is like something that we really are trying to measure as much as we can now and really look forward to having those robust strategies going forward as well.
I love it. I mean, you don't have the full results yet, but you're making an impact. And
Yeah,
even if it's just one girl that ends up going into
absolutely.
tech and or starting her own tech company or
Yeah.
whatever, it's still something, right?
And Sonia, I have to tell you, I have so much faith in the youth of tomorrow because I've seen these projects that they come up with, and it's really mind-blowing. They have such a sophisticated sense of, their goals, of what they want to work on and how they want to change the world. They have so much intelligence and just drive, and it really does make you feel comfortable going into the future, knowing that these are the kids that are going to be leading the charge and hopefully being in those leadership positions at these big companies that could use a bit more representation now. We're looking at you, we're encouraging them and hoping to see that come to life in a couple decades time, fingers crossed. I'll be watching. I'll be watching.
For sure. So, tell me, what are some of the biggest challenges you've observed that discourage girls from pursuing careers in STEM, particularly in technology and computer science?
Yeah, so this comes down to what we see on the ground that's really positive. So when I see a girl talk about how great it was to see someone on screen who looked like her, who had a similar story to her, those stories that the kids get to see, these diverse stories about rich experiences and complicated career paths and reality and life and work balance and family and all of these things that women work with and deal with every single day in creating these exciting careers that they are proud of. It really does help them have that reference point, which I don't think is always there. When you think of tech, you probably don't necessarily think of a woman who's balancing, raising a small child and, a couple other things along the way. You think of more so, a guy in a hoodie, that's the typical image that we imagine. And we really try to break that mold and to make sure that they see that that's not always the case, that they would be, very, very welcome in that role and that that's something they can aspire to. Also, that confidence piece, we do have research that shows that girls are more active, more participatory when they're in an environment that they feel comfortable in and where they get to raise their voice and not feel necessarily like they should step back or, in that really crucial age group of 10 to 14, you're struggling with so much inside about, should I raise my hand? Like, I feel awkward, I'm growing, I'm changing, trying to find a space where they just feel like this is safe, this is comfortable, I'm with my friends, that peer-based support. That environment in itself can really beat that challenge down that is, should I be raising my hand? Should I be even taking this class? I don't see people like me in it. Maybe I should step back. So creating those extracurricular spaces is such a great solve for that problem. Representation long-term about adults in the field, but also representation in the here and now, like who is in my class and who is speaking up. Am I like that person or should I maybe step back? The self-doubt. That's something that's more interior, but it's definitely a challenge that we see and try to combat with the peer-based learning that we do in the coding clubs.
Do you find that the girls are aware that it's a male dominated space, or has that changed because the program is for girls only and they don't even know what's going on out there in the real world?
Yeah, completely. I've spoken to, when I think about the age group of some of our scholar recipients who are in their first or second year of post-secondary education right now, they do come back to me and they do say, I actually was, one of only a couple girls in my computer science course this year, or I noticed, that there were fewer women teachers in the higher levels at my university, and I was really confused by that. So they're coming back and reporting that. But I think with the younger kids who are grades 6 to 8, maybe, because they're in this supportive environment so early and in such a formative time, I think that we are transforming their impression of what tech is. But you can tell that it does have to start early because we're kind of gradually, you see it decreasing as the years go on, even on such a small scale, between grade 8 and grade 12. That's such a crucial age group to interrupt and just disrupt that perception, to show them that they're welcome. Even if they're the only girl on their robotics team at high school, it's okay, that's great, keep going, and maybe mentor a couple girls to join next year, right? So it's always paying it forward and trying to build that reciprocity and that sense of mentorship amongst the girls too.
What do you think is, yes, tech is a male dominated space, but what do you think causes that to
Hmm.
happen?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Um, I think from the hackergal perspective, like I would go back to that sense of welcome, that sense of do I belong here? Um, I personally didn't go into tech myself, but I can only imagine that if I stepped into a room and I saw that I was the only one, we have lots of conversations about what that means from a variety of experiences, but when you're the only one in the room, that can discourage you and that can make you feel as if it's too much of an uphill battle or you can't relate to the people around you or they don't understand your unique perspective or experience. And I think that builds up over time and that can wear you down and you might end up choosing another path. There are studies in university about how those rates of participation of women decrease as the years go on because they just that feeling starts to build up and it starts to kind of fester like inside of you and you think maybe I should take another path actually. We're really optimistic and hope to see the numbers increase, but I think that confidence piece is also something that's really hard to measure. We can't always say that you'll have that confidence stick in you from middle school all the way to post-secondary. But if you're able to connect it to real world experiences, to memories of people supporting you and encouraging you, especially if it was a woman who's already established and says, I did it, you can do it too. Like those are memories that we hope they'll be able to reach back to when things get hard, or even when we're not connected with them anymore. If they still pursue the career, hopefully they'll be able to remember the events and keep going. Feeling like you're part of something bigger and being encouraged by people around you who understand that is such an important part of anyone's career and experience. And I can only imagine that it would be really challenging for women to keep going if you feel like the only one in the room in those situations.
Yeah. So Hacker Girls is going into the schools. You have this program, but what do you think long term needs to be done to keep encouraging girls? Like, does it start at like the education level in general? Like, what can be done further out to really uh, fill that gap?
The education level is interesting. In the Canadian landscape, every province and territory will have a different approach to coding, right? So we often encounter that as a bit of a discrepancy. You can't really guarantee that every community that you interact with across the country is either going to have the resources that they need, the baseline of information or exposure to those subjects as they might have in the province next door. That's something that we have to work with and kind of be pretty adaptable to as an organization that provides that kind of supplemental support as an extracurricular. We're definitely trying our best to interrupt any places that have a gap, provide the curriculum to the teachers directly, say, bring this into your classroom or do it after school. It's your choice. But then we also have to make sure that the kids at home feel comfortable. There might be a single learner who's not part of a club, but says, I really want to learn how to code. And we want to make sure that even if it's not part of their day-to-day life at school, they're still welcome to come in and to try it themselves. So we have to balance that holistic educational change with also accepting that there will always be differences and different resources across the country, regardless of whether they're in a school or community center. How can we provide something that is movable, shapeable enough to fit into any kind of situation and provide what they need in terms of educational material? And also programming that makes them feel like they're part of a movement, because that is a really key part of it, that social impact piece, that movement across Canada, motivating people to keep going and keep changing. That's as much of a part of it as providing educational resources on the ground. Like you're part of something bigger. It's a national movement and we're changing the world. And these kids are going to be part of brainstorming solutions to the biggest problems that we're facing today. And we want to make sure that they're prepared to do that too. So it's a big ask. It's a big
Yeah.
ask, but we're optimistic.
What was it like when you first launched this, it's a after school club program? What was the reaction like from the girls?
Started small. So Lucy, the founder, started the coding clubs and the organization in Toronto in a smaller way. It was with local schools that had established relationships with. That was very new at the time. 2015, coding was still something that was pretty rare in a classroom, I'll say. It was not something that was necessarily on the curriculum, let alone part of people's day-to-day conversation about STEM skills and what the kids should be learning. So over time, we have noticed that these conversations have extended. The kids are doing this for fun outside of school. They're starting to do it themselves independently and as self-paced learners. And we see a lot more exposure to coding now than we did back then. We're having to respond to that and trying to evolve our own programming, of course, every time, because you got to keep up with kids. Kids will always learn more and learn faster than me. Like I can say that very confidently. So our challenge is to be able to still provide that coding, but also include the discussions around AI, include the discussions around robotics that are more contemporary, that are more relevant in 2024 than things were in 2025 or not 2025. Oh gosh, 2025. I don't even want to think about it. You can never predict. You
Yeah.
can really never predict. I mean, the conversations around AI, those have happened in the past 2 or 3 years, right? Like in a public way. So we're really trying to stay adaptable, recognize that we can't provide necessarily the same thing that we did 10 years ago, but how can we keep with that at the core, acknowledge that those skills are still important and still layer on more recent, more innovative approaches to digital skill education. If the kids don't want to do it, they won't do it. So it's a challenge to us to keep them interested and keep them engaged, and also to provide teachers with something that will keep their classroom motivated to keep learning during the school year and keep excited. We really do want to support our teachers as best we can, and providing new content that's interesting and challenging is really part of that. And we hope to continue to innovate as the year goes on. We have a lot of changes coming in this next year. We have a couple new languages that we're working with, and we're going to be announcing some new resources. So it's an exciting time to keep developing. And thanks to the kids for challenging us to do that.
And so this is a not-for-profit organization.
Mhm.
And so what are you guys doing in the background to keep it going?
Yeah, it's always a big priority to keep the lights on, keep things going, and keep improving and keep traveling and keep, bringing cool resources and products to the kids like that. It will always be something that we're aiming for.
Mhm.
Getting more funding and reliable multi-year funding is definitely a priority. We work with a few avenues when it comes to funding. We love our corporate sponsorships and being able to provide really tailored, customized special, meaningful experiences to the corporations that dedicate their funds and their time to us. We're incredibly grateful for the support that we have from a variety of very recognizable companies that trust our services and trust what we provide. We also have government funding, and also individual donations are a huge part of it too. We really love seeing every now and then these donations coming in from folks who just want to give a little bit monthly or something more substantial as a gift. You're more than welcome to check out our website if anyone listening wants to learn more or wants to donate. The funds, because we're a very small charity, we have a small team, we have, very nimble organization. We operate very, I don't know what the word is, but very efficiently, very efficiently as a small organization. And your dollars do go directly to our staff salaries, our amazing team, but also some of the exciting opportunities that we get to do on the ground, whether it's traveling to different locations, delivering a robotics program, providing a laptop loaning program, whatever the case may be. It's very demonstratable. Like you can look at the money and where it goes very easily because we are such a small organization.
So you rely on a lot of government granting, private funding. Do a lot of tech companies support you guys?
Well, it's been challenging times for tech companies. So we had a lot of success early on, but in the past few years, I think your community would be the first to know that it's been a little tight. It's a little hard in the tech world right now to find that additional budget to give to organizations like ours. But I would always still advocate for it, even if it is in a small way. We are so much so contributing to the pipeline of the future. You can imagine these kids who see your logo on a programming, flyer from our hackathon, and then saying, oh, they funded our hackathon, when 15 years down the road, they're looking for a job or they're kind of applying for their first internship. We know that the results may not be tomorrow. You might not have a university kid who's knocking on your door saying, I want an internship, I'm ready to go. But if you fundamentally believe in this mission and you understand that what we're doing is a solution to a problem that's been around for decades and still hasn't been solved, but what we're doing is really truly shifting it and changing the game. If you're invested in that kind of change and you want to be a part of something bigger and want to actually feel confident that you are creating a tech industry that represents everybody and comes up with the most amazing solutions, please consider funding hackergal. We definitely would love to see more tech companies and be able to bring those experiences at those companies live to our kids in some way or another. Being able to see the tech company in action adds so much value to our kids' experience and their learning and peer-based,
Yeah.
memories that they can share with each other going forward.
So I have a bit of a strange question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Is it, or maybe you don't know, but do you know if most of your funders are women or men
Oh, that's a very interesting
companies?
question.
I'm just curious, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think the way I would put it is that um, I've been in rooms where our stats around how many women work in tech are exactly replicated. Like you will see virtually a conference room and there will be one woman like in a group of five men, and you're like, okay, great. That's like very helpful to know that our statistics are are the same. I think that our advocates are anybody. You know, you'll get a mix of pretty much anyone. The companies that we serve are definitely trying to address an issue that they know exists in the industry. And so that means that they could be women, but they also could be allies, you know, folks who are definitely supportive of more women in the workplace. But, you know, we have a lot of advocates who are women. Our board, as you know, is full of strong women who definitely want to champion more inclusion in tech. But we also have a wonderful board member who is not a woman who does the same. So I think it's a mix
Amazing.
for sure. It's a mix for sure, but it's definitely you can feel the difference when a woman who works in tech is advocating for you, because the story she will always inevitably tell, even if they're just a speaker at one of our events, is I wish this program existed when I was younger because I craved seeing that so much and I didn't even know it existed, you know, like that recognition that their trajectory might have been a little easier or they might have felt more inspired and that they're so excited to see kids experiencing it now. That kind of advocacy and that kind of personal connection, you really can't put a price on that. You can really feel the difference that it makes when someone's advocating because they experiencing it every day and they want to see a change happen. So I love all of our supporters, but we do have a lot of very empathetic responses from women for sure.
I love it because, I go to like pitch competitions all the time, or women in tech events, and there's so much, there is a lot of money going into those
Yeah,
types of events.
yeah.
But, what you guys are doing, it's like you're investing in the future, right? And maybe in the future, you won't need pitch competitions and things like that, or just specific for women because, you're going
Yeah,
to close that gap a little bit. But
absolutely.
you're really investing in the future, uh,
Hmm.
and it's such good work, and I absolutely love the organization. But anyone who would like to donate, find out more, or teachers who want to have
Yeah.
their school in the program, how can they find you? How can they reach out? Give us all the information.
I'll do my best. So our website is a great first stop. You can get a lot of information on our programming, what we do. We have certain pathways on the website. So if you're a learner or if you're a facilitator, you can access the different parts of the site that will help you more in terms of where you're coming from and what your goals are. We also have a lot of great information on our annual reporting on there. You know, if you want to dig a little deeper and learn more about our impact. We also have links to how to donate on our website, so that's a great place to start. You can also follow us on social media. We really have a, marketing team that's very excited to spread our word and spread our message to everybody. So please feel free to follow us at the Hacker Gals on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever you want to follow us. Yeah, and just keep your ears out because we really want to become a household name. We are a household name amongst teachers, but we really want to make sure the message gets spread to pretty much anybody, parents included. So if you are a parent of a kid who might be interested in our programs, you're also more than welcome to reach out to us. Small team, big inbox, info@hackergal.org. You can also reach out to us there, and I guarantee we'll have somebody on our team reply back to you. And we always like connecting with supporters, regardless of what their goals are. So please get in touch.
Love it. And before we wrap up, what's coming down the line for Hacker Girls? Anything that you could share?
Anything that I can share. That's a great way to word that question. I'm sure you get that response every now and then. Um, what we're really excited about for next year is that we are releasing this new curriculum and new coding languages. Previously, we had worked with a language called Lynx, which was founded in Canada, and it's a great platform, but we're shifting to a couple new languages, one of which is block-based and one of which will be text-based. So we're trying to continue to provide a lot of different resources for our learners so they can graduate within our programming, try their skills at block-based, move on to text-based coding. But also we're really happy to be editing our program a little bit, trying out new event styles. This current year is going to be really exciting, and we hope to welcome as many new community members as well as old returning community members too. So fingers crossed we get to have an even more memorable hackathon next year around this time. And yeah, just keep widening our circle across the country. If you're from the East Coast, from the West Coast, from Central Canada, please reach out. We would love to have you a part of our community.
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing
Yeah.
the Hacker Gal mission and everything that you guys are doing. It's such wonderful work. And yeah, anyone wants to reach out, go to the hackergal's website, send an email, call, things. But thank you
Whatever
so
you
much.
can.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time today.
Of course. Thank you so much, Sonia.
And that's a wrap. I want to thank Rebecca for joining us today and sharing the Hacker Gal vision and mission. I hope you're as inspired as we are by Hacker Gal's incredible mission to empower girls in tech and change the face of computer science. If you're passionate about supporting a more diverse and inclusive technology industry, consider donating to HackerGal or getting involved in their programs. Visit their website at hackergal.org. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and join our community on social media. I would love to hear from you. Leave a review and tell me what topics you'd like me to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace change and innovation with tenacity. Keep striving, keep innovating, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to bringing you more inspiring conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, remember to chase your dreams with tenacity.